So Funto, you're a finance person. You've got a master's degree in finance management. I think a bachelor's degree in accounting and finance. How did you go from that to picking up trash, dustbin waste?
She left a high-powered finance career to pick up trash, literally. But for Funto Boroffice, every discarded bottle and scrap of paper was a chance to restore dignity, uplift communities, and heal the environment. Through Chanja Datti, she's given thousands of women a way to earn, children a way to learn, and Nigeria a new way to see waste. In this episode of Seed Diaries, Wamaka Okoye sits down with Funto to explore how purpose can turn the ordinary into the extraordinary.
Hello, everyone. My name is Wamaka Okoye. Welcome to another edition of Seed Diaries. Today, I'm really excited because I have with me Funto Boroffice of Chanja Datti. And today we're going to talk about turning trash to treasure. So Funto, you're welcome.
Thank you so much, Wamaka, for having me. I'm super excited to be here as well.
Yeah, so your story about Chanja Datti is really interesting to me. Do you want to tell us about Chanja Datti, what it does, and who it caters to?
Sure. So Chanja Datti is a waste collection and recycling and now manufacturing company. We collect waste and we turn it into wealth. So we collect different types of waste streams, plastic, paper, carton, and we turn them into either raw materials, semi-raw materials, or finished products for the household. And I started this a decade ago. And as the name stands, it's a house for change dirt or transform waste. So that was sort of like the onus around it as to why I set it up. And the people that it actually impacts is everybody in society, everybody who generates waste, and everybody, like I say, generates waste, no matter how small. I think statistically, everybody generates between half a kilogram to a kilogram of waste every day. And we need to do something with that waste instead of just throwing it away or burning it. And that's where we come in.
So Funto, you're a finance person. You've got a master's degree in finance management. I think a bachelor's degree in accounting and finance.
Yes.
How did you go from that to picking up trash, dustbin, waste? Just tell me, please.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I lived and schooled abroad in the US for probably close to 20 years. And one of the things that became part of my DNA, I would say, is trying to sorting my waste, right? We had a bin for most things, your biodegradable versus your non-biodegradable waste. And each time I came home to Nigeria to visit my family, I think one of the things that stood out to me was the way we were disposing our waste indiscriminately, right? Every median had waste. What was supposed to be a bus stop had waste. And I was like, why are we not separating our waste? And then to layer that on top of that is that I realized that, people old enough to be my grandparents were genuflecting, and just for $1, $2 will come and be greeting you, and just because they wanted money from you. And the Nigerians that I remember were very proud people. So I was like, what's going on here? And when you start asking questions, they'll say, my granddaughter had no money, no job. So when I moved back to Nigeria, I was very certain that I wanted to solve a problem. And I don't believe that the government can do it all. So for me, it was, how do I sort of turn this process, which is definitely inefficient, into a means for people to make money, but also clean up the earth and clean up our environment and make it cleaner and make it healthier. And so that was sort of one of the reasons why I birthed Chanja Datti.
Wow. So in that means, the desire to impact people in the society as well as clean out the environment. How did you turn that desire to helping them make money? I'm trying to see the connection. How do people make money from your business?
Yeah. So a lot of people, now I think there's more understanding and more knowledge, but 10 years ago when I started Chanja Datti, a lot of people just thought that waste was waste and people would burn it or throw it away. And now we're understanding fully well that waste is actually a resource and it can be used for other things. So I'll give you an example. Paper, right? That a textbook, anybody who looks at that is just saying, no, this is a newspaper. It's just, newspaper. but you can actually turn that into new paper. You can actually recycle it, right? So instead of cutting down new trees to make the pulp for new papers, you can actually recycle what you had before. Same with plastic, right? It's made from fossil fuel, but instead of using virgin pellets from fossil fuel, you can actually recycle the plastic that you already have into new products or into other products. And so we are trying to make sure that we reserve what we already have and use what has already been used before. So we're going from linear, which is you take something, you make something, and then you throw it away, to circular now, where you take, you make, but instead of throwing it away, you actually recycle or you reuse or you refurbish so that you can keep on using it. And so that's the mindset and the mentality. And while you're doing this, you can actually make money because someone needs those semi-raw materials or someone needs those new products that you're producing. So I'll give you an example. A PET bottle, a plastic bottle for a water bottle, 8 of those can be turned into fiber for anybody who follows Arsenal or 8 of those bottles can actually be turned into fiber that can be used to make one of those jerseys, right?
Really?
I mean, a lot of people don't know this. So we are also serving as a connector between what would have been thrown away or burnt to now processing it and then turning it into something that can then be used by any of these manufacturers.
I see.
Yes.
So I'm still trying to bring it down.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just imagining myself.
Yes.
Okay, I'm looking for money. I don't have a job. When I'm hearing about this waste to wealth, trash to treasure thing, it sounds abstract. How do I make money? How do the people on the streets make money from this transition? How, the process. Who are the segments of the business or your model? Just trying to figure that out.
So there are different people who play along the value chain. So we have the people who collect.
Okay.
So you can collect like a kilogram, and most of the things we weigh is either by kilogram or by ton, right? So if you bring me a kilogram of plastic waste, I would pay you 600 naira today for just a kilogram of it, right? If you brought me a kilogram of paper and we scaled it, you could probably get like 400 naira. So there are people who are collectors, there are people who are processors, and then there are people who actually manufacture for the end user. So you can fall in that value chain. So the way people can make money is you can make money along the value chain, but a lot of people that we work with, and these are people who, everybody from the waste pickers to women in communities who are just looking to make money for Pepe and for Maggie, you can go to your community and collect all the bottles that you see or all the papers that you see and bring it to any of our locations and they will scale it for you and you get money immediately, or you get money to open a bank account, and that money you can start a savings account. So that's the way we're turning this waste into wealth, into money. So you can collect old clothes. People are turning those old clothes into new fiber now. You can collect plastic, you can collect paper, cartons, e-waste, batteries. I mean, it goes on and on, right? And it's just one of the things we create is the platform for people to be able to bring any of this waste, and we can then scale and then give you the equivalent money for it. And then we take care of the collection, the aggregation, and the processing of some of this waste. And some of the waste that we don't process ourselves, we have other manufacturers who process them, and they use it in their manufacturing process.
I see. So if I'm in need of money,
Yes.
I can just go around and collect the waste. I need to sort it, right?
Yes.
Okay, and then I can bring it and I get paid.
Yes.
Wow. Wow, that must be a big boon to people around, the community. I can just imagine people who don't have jobs, or mothers and fathers who, have children and responsibilities with no jobs. Could you tell me about how has this impacted the community?
Sure. And when I started, I've been very fortunate in my life, I have to say. And so when I started this, it was a social enterprise. I really was just about creation of wealth, livelihoods, and jobs for people. And so we've gone into really marginalized communities, especially so we're headquartered in Abuja, but now we have locations in Nasarawa State, in Lagos, in Ondo State. So we've gone into some of these states and we've gone into local communities, right, where women are not doing much or don't have jobs, don't have education, don't have anything. And when we open or we tell them about this Waste to Wealth program, you can see the excitement on their face, because now all of a sudden they don't have to go and be disturbing their husbands or their sons all the time for money. They can clean up their community, bring this waste to us, we'll buy it from them. And they have money that they can use to buy pepper, or they can use to buy Maggi, or, things to cook for their families. one of the biggest things that we also realized was when we went to communities, people were coming up with different issues of, oh, I want my children to go to school, just the basic. I'm sure you've heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Just the basic food, security, shelter. And so we started a few programs, right? One of them is Bottles for Books, where people can actually collect this waste and they'll bring it to us, and then we turn that into money for them, and then they can pay the school fees for their children, right? Just as an example, we have a program, we've been able to support over 1,000 children through that process. We have another program called Women Recyclers Economic Empowerment Program. We've been able to support over almost 2,000 women in over 10 communities in Abuja. And these women are basically collecting money, they're collecting the waste, and then they'll bring it to us, we'll buy from them, and then we're also training them, and they're able to now pay for capacity building, or we'll do capacity building for free for them. They'll learn how to make confectionaries and things like that, or local soap. And all the materials that they're using, right, to buy all this product that they need is coming from the money for recycling. So it's a very circular process, right? So these are the ways that the women and the communities we work in are sort of benefiting from this whole concept around waste to wealth. And we've seen it grow. We've seen more women. I mean, one of our women, I think, has opened a shop.
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
it's really, I mean, women are sending children to school, especially the girl child. They're sending their girl children to school who may not benefit from, the opportunity to be able to go to school because maybe they're boys and girls children in the family and there's limited resources. So we've seen this actually have a lot of very awesome impact, at least for me, that I'm excited about.
I'm also excited, Funto, because this is one of the things that you hear in conferences and sound like talking points and happens mainly in the Western world. So it's interesting that you have formed an organization that is working on this. And I'm wondering, as an entrepreneur, while it's your passion to start, I just wonder financially, how did you start this? Because I can imagine that it would have taken quite a bit for you to begin to be profitable. That's my thinking, but you can correct me on that. And if that's the case, how long did it take? How did you start financially?
Yeah, so within 3 years of when I moved back was when I started Chanja Datti from the US.
And you were a vice president of, was it GE?
Yeah,
before
General
you
Electric,
left?
yeah. Yeah, so
Wow.
I was earning very good money before I moved back. And thankfully I had savings. So when I decided to start my business, my savings definitely played a huge role. But, I always tell people that, your support system is very critical, your friends and your family. For me, it was my family, right? My parents my brothers have been phenomenal in the support that I've received in running this business. And even though I was not a bona fide entrepreneur when I had this idea and wanted to start, they were very supportive. So in terms of land, where, with collection, some of the collection buses that I used, came from family, and then funding for myself. And that was how we started, right? Until maybe a year ago, I never took a loan for this business. But the other thing is we started very small. We started within our sphere and our capacity, and we've just grown organically. So I didn't earn a salary for years. Every dime.
How many years?
For a long time. But again, I had the luxury of also living at home, so again, that's where family comes into play, right? So I lived in the family house. So I didn't have to worry about rent. I didn't have to worry about a lot of things, right? And I always tell other entrepreneurs that, you have to really understand people's circumstances before you compare yourself to them. Because anybody comparing themselves to me would not understand the kind of support that I got, right? And if you don't have that kind of support system, just knocking yourself over the head saying, oh, this person has done X, Y, Z, and I've not done X, you're not comparing, apples to apples. So I think for the first maybe 5-6 years, I didn't earn a salary, to be honest. And that's, I earned maybe a bit to just cover my costs, but
Basic
not like
needs,
a basic salary. But we plowed everything back into the business, right? And we started to grow. And once we started having traction, there were organizations who were offering grants that we were able to then apply for, small grants, big grants. Been very fortunate as well. But some of those big grants are coming now. Now that we don't really need the money is where some of those grants are coming in. Or we do need the money, but in the early days, if those grants had been available, it would have been such a game changer for us. And then one of the other things we also did was we also signed up a few clients that we were offering our waste collection services to. So one of our biggest clients was Transcorp Hilton Hotel, right? Was our first client in Abuja, and we're the official recycler 8 years later, right?
Oh, wow.
So, and they, like I always tell people, once they said yes, come and, collect our recyclable waste and everything, they become huge partners. We're doing stuff even outside of just waste collection to just impact work in the community and all that. But we leveraged and name dropped shamelessly once they became a client, right? For other things, other clients, and then, embassies, banks, other hotels started to sign up, bits and pieces. And so that money was our, like, fuel money, you know what I mean? So we managed, we learned, we grew as needed, but we made it work. We made it work.
So you're saying your first big client was Transcorp Hilton.
Yes.
How did you close them? Did you know anyone there?
No.
Mm.
It was just persistence and just knocking on doors. I tell people that first 2 years, for every 10 proposals we wrote, we got 9 no's and 1 yes.
Wow.
And they were just happened to be the first yes, which we just ran with.
That was a major yes.
Yes, I mean, we ran with it. Because, it was like most people understand waste, this whole sector, to be the purview of all this local bola, as they call them, people who are not really clean looking, whatever. And so we wanted to bring the sexy back to this, we wanted to bring the whole, vibe of, but people didn't understand. They didn't get it. They were like, what are you talking about, And let me tell you a story. I remember when I wanted to start this business, my mom, I'm an only daughter. I have 3 brothers. And, me and my mom are close. My mom didn't understand this whole, you want to do what? Waste? You've just spent almost 20 years in the US, and then you want to come and we're going to dump site to go and, it was so foreign for her. And even with that, she was very supportive. But I think down the line now, she's very proud of the work we're doing. So this is a family member not understanding, talk less of outsiders. So we had to do a lot of explanation. We had to do a lot of sensitization. This is what we're trying to do, environmental sustainability, circular economy, all these things, right? And like I said, they were the first people to just give us a thumbs up, and we ran with that.
Wow. I can imagine the amount of persistence that you had to have to keep going, especially in Nigeria, especially your family supported you in terms of, making sure that you had a place to live, but where even the idea, it seems like nobody believes in it. How did you keep going?
It was just a belief in what I was trying to do. When people ask me, what do you care about? I always say it's the 4 P's, right? It's people, planet, profits, and partnerships, right? But the people side of things is really, really where my heart beats every day, right? And so, I knew that this was a way for people to earn money, where they didn't have to debase themselves or they didn't have to turn into crime or anything. And so that kept me going because I knew it was a way for people who didn't have much to move forward, right? No matter where you were in society, if you looked down instead of up and you collected all the bottles or the cans that you saw on the road or on the ground, you could earn money to just even feed yourself and your children at a minimum. So I think that belief and that passion kept me going even when I got a lot of no's. And then, having lived abroad, and I see the difference in cleanliness, there's also a thing of pride for me. I was like, if any of my friends from America come and they'll just say, is this your country? I was like, yeah. So for me, I wanted to be part of the solution, right? To say, Nigeria is clean. We might not be, developed, whatever anybody wants to say, but at least it's clean, right? And each time I came home to visit, like I said, that wasn't the picture that I was seeing. And it was very frustrating for me. So again, I'm not one of those that says, government should do everything. And I wanted to do my own or play my own part or my role there.
So how's that working out for you now?
So I will say that, when we started out, for every 10 proposals, 9 no's and 1 yes. Now we don't even write proposals. People approach us. So again, we're good. We're doing good in that regard. And then we're moving up the value chain now. So we started just as collectors, and then we moved up to aggregation, and now we're moving up to manufacturing, where we're going to start manufacturing household products, buckets and bowls from plastic that we're collecting. So we're super excited. And then we started again scarce resources. So these are materials that are needed globally. And so last year we dipped our toe into export. And we started exporting PET cold wash flakes to Europe and Asia.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we're part of the people hopefully generating some. We're not there yet. We're not where we are yet, but generating some, non-oil money for the government. So um, I'm excited about the trajectory of where we're going. But the one that really gets my heart beating, like I said, and gets me excited is really the impact we are making. Like I said, over 1,000 children have been able to go to school. Over almost 2,000 women are part of our Women Recyclers program. We're doing stuff with widows. We have a program called Waste for Justice, where we're helping.
Tell me about that, yeah.
So Waste for Justice is, again, I always tell people, because for people to give you cash sometimes, especially in Nigeria, it's tough. Not because they don't want to, but maybe because they don't have. So we always say, give us your trash, not your cash. And leave the turning of that trash to cash to us. So people will just give us money, give us your trash, your old bottles, your old books, your old batteries. We'll convert that to money and use it for good for people. And that's what we're doing. So pretrial detainees who, you hear horror stories of our prisons are filled up, right? But people who maybe they did something and within 2 days should have been out, maybe because of lack of understanding of language or no lawyer to bail them out, end up spending 2 years.
Oh, dear. Yeah.
We've seen case upon case. And so we're also part of trying to solve that. And again, we're just asking people, give us your trash, not your cash. We'll do the conversion for that trash to money, and then we'll help people that need it.
So when you make the money, you take some of it and you pay for legal representation
service, yes.
for them.
Yes, or bail money or things like that, yeah. And this year we're going to support 100 detainees. This year we're going to support, I think, over 100 widows as well, with support, again, money from waste.
Yes, that's really, really incredible and very inspiring. I wonder, so if I wanted to start, because I'm inspired. If I wanted to start this business, how would I go about it? Especially now that you look in hindsight, I would think that there's some things you've learned that you could have done differently. So give me the cheat code. What would be the steps I would need to take to get into this? You also talked about grants that are now available, that were not available earlier, or maybe you did not know about. How would one go about funding, getting the funding? Then what steps would one need to go through?
I would say some of the lessons learned that I wish I knew earlier. For one, knowledge is key, and you have to do research. And so even if there were opportunities then, I think I didn't know where to look. Now I know where to look and search for grants or things like that. The internet is very helpful. You can, do your research. It also depends on where you want to start in the value chain. If you want to start collecting today, even with, I would say, zero down, as long as you know who generates a lot of waste and who can offtake or who can collect, you can be the intermediary and make, even if it's 5 naira per kilogram, you can make your profit that way and then build up on that. So even with zero down, you can start with collection. But if you want to move up the value chain and you want to do more stuff, that's where you need money.
Capital.
Capital to be able to buy equipment, to be able to secure space, to be able to hire workers, things like that. So again, it depends on where in the value chain you want to play. But as you're a big madam and you want to, you definitely don't want to.
I don't know about big madam. Well, I'm trying to start this thing, so.
So I think for you, it wouldn't be collection, right? It would be probably either aggregation or, manufacturing of some sort. And that would need more capital. But it'd be, if you go to China, you can get decent sized machines to either turn them to flakes or build them and compress for easy movement. It just depends on where you want to play. But again, I can categorically tell you, and I've done this with some people who've come to me and said, oh, please, can you give me money? I said, I don't have money for you, but if you go and bring 100 kilograms of plastic bottles and I'll pay you and you earn money. And if they say, I can't do it, I say, but that's where my money comes from. So if you're too cool for school and you don't want to do that, then you don't want my money because that's where I earn my money as well. But if you can do that, you bring it to me, even if you haven't paid for where you collected it from, we'll pay you because we know you're going to get the goods and you can make your profit already on top of that and you can start that and sort of build turnover. That's the name of the game.
I see. So there's a collection.
Yes.
Then there's aggregation.
Yes.
Do you have to clean,
sort?
Clean,
yes.
Okay. And then there is the, processing in terms of turning to flakes.
Yeah, or bales.
Or
Or
so either you compress to bales or you sort. I'm sorry, or you
crush.
you crush.
Or you melt down and you turn into pellets.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you have a product that can be used. And then if you want to go to the next level, you can then manufacture as well. So
Yes.
you can either sell the bales or the pellets.
Yes, or the
I
flakes.
see.
Yeah.
Okay, or the flakes. Okay, I'm learning.
Yeah, I mean,
Yay!
very, very.
I'm trying.
Yeah,
Abby.
yeah, yeah, very much so. Yes.
Very good. Okay, so now, assuming you started this, or assuming I was starting this, I talked about the grants. You talked about grants, and you said, one has to do a lot of research. But are there some websites or places that people can go and look that you can think of?
Oh, I know there's something called, there's a website called Funds for NGO that people can look at.
Okay, Funds for NGO.
Opportunity Desk.
Opportunity Desk.
And then, there are organizations who, like I know organizations like Coca-Cola or whatever usually have a foundation, and they're looking to support. And I have to be clear with them because people might listen and say, oh, my space is primarily plastic waste, right?
Okay.
And primarily PET waste. So that's where the space that I have focused or honed in. So companies like maybe Coca-Cola or Nestle, I'll also have foundations that are really big about cleaning up, the waste in the environment and things like that. So you can apply to those kind of organizations. But again, like I said, ChatGPT, Google search, you've just put in, I'm looking for grants for environmental space or whatever, and hopefully something will come out. Okay. It will spit out a whole list of things that you can start looking at.
All right, great. And when we were chatting earlier, you had mentioned one of the biggest challenges that you had that was very emotionally grueling.
Yeah.
Do you want to share about that?
Sure. Yeah, this was probably like the second year that we were in existence, and I had the opportunity of meeting this billionaire industrialist from the southeast of the country, and who, said, oh, he needed, I think it was like 200 tons of plastic waste. And let me tell you, I was super excited because I was like, this is a game changer for us. If we can get this contract signed, it would open doors and everything. And he was like, yeah, now send my trucks to pick it up and everything. After the meeting, I wanted to sign an agreement of some sort, so commitment. And his pay was like, well, do you think my boss is a billionaire? He won't owe you money. And, I was young. I was impressionable. I was trying to make a good first impression. So I was like, okay, And so I went, thank God for mothers. I borrowed money from my mother, bought all the materials that I needed. We built the PET. We loaded truck. We started calling. And that's when I should have said something was off. Because we started calling that, okay, the bills are on ground. When can you send your truck? And then radio silence. I was like, So we now said, okay, we don't want to waste time and everything. We'll even load truck. And, oh my God, till today that I'm talking to you, I never heard a peep from the guy again. I now started calling his PA that, I've already borrowed money. I have goods sitting down. I don't, what am I think the guy, after I kept on calling and calling and calling, the guy now just took pity on me and said, okay, well, there's this company in Badon Expressway, whatever, take it to them and just, I took it, and those guys used me to do yanga. They bought, maybe let's say I bought material for maybe 15 naira per. They now said they can buy for like 15 naira.
Wow.
And then they started saying, no, this, in fact, this is not what we want, but we'll just buy it off of you and everything. It's a Chinese company. And I felt so pained, I was so pained. You know what that taught me, that whole process taught me? Number one, I don't care if you're a zillionaire. I don't care if you're a trillionaire from outer space. If there's going to be money matter between me and you, we must sign a document, for sure. We have to sign. You must even give me some advance if money matter is involved. That's the first lesson I learned. But, I always tell people that for me, it could have been a make or break time for me. And it also taught me resilience. It taught me resilience. It taught me that I should always have contracts signed with people. Always. And even though people say, our court system in Nigeria is not, I say, but sign it anyway.
It takes 30 years.
No, but still, sign it anyway and have a proof.
Something.
It's not a he said, she said matter anymore. You have proof, right? But it was also for me, I took it as a teachable moment. And I said, you know what, this is not going to break me. This experience is not going to break me. And through that, I also met some people who became very instrumental to the growth of my business, because there's nowhere in this Abuja, if you were doing PET ways, that I did not traverse because I was looking for material for this man. And so, what could have potentially been a very horrible situation that could have closed my business, and made me sort of regret ever coming to this business ended up being something that I choose to look at it as a learning, teachable moment that has allowed me to grow. And it also taught me that when you hit adversity like this, right, you can either decide to turn back and go back where you're coming from, or you can decide that you want to either go over the adversity, dig underneath, go around it, drill through it, do something to get to the other side, right? And that was the case that for me, I decided I was going to go to the other side of this. I lost a lot of money.
Wow.
I fell sick. It got so bad that I was going to the dump site every day for like maybe 2 months. I had to hire a translator because I don't speak Hausa, to go with me and speak to the locals. It was a teachable moment that I will never ever forget. And I pass that on to other people. Make sure, no matter even the person's a trillionaire, make sure you sign an agreement, a document with that person before you do anything that involves money. Otherwise, you'll be at the end of the losing.
Wow, Funto, these battle scars that you shared, a lot of entrepreneurs have so many stories to tell. There was something else you had mentioned, another adversity which became a source of triumph. You mentioned something about your premises and how you were able to acquire the property that you have, and a very unlikely set of circumstances. You want to share that?
Yeah, so we had a leased factory space that we were using for our processing and aggregation and things like that, and we had signed a 2-year lease extension that expired, and then we signed maybe 1 year, and then in the middle of that 1 year, my landlord just woke up one day and said, this is my space, I want to use it. And we're like, huh? And he didn't give us a lot of time to have to move. So I got to the point where the decision had to be made. Do we go and lease another space, or what are options? And I remember that time we were also looking to get some. We had, people had started saying, do you have credit history? Are you building credit history for your business? Do the banks know you? Anytime I talked about any of these big loans from government, they would say, where's your collateral? And we didn't have any collateral because we were in a lease space, and the only collateral we had were our equipment and everything. So when I spoke to the chairman of our board, he was like, well, maybe this is a time to sort of bite the bullet and just acquire your own space and build. And then the rental we're seeing for warehouses for 2 years was enough to buy at least land. So we're like, okay, what do we do? And then so we took that step of faith and said, okay, well, we're going to buy land. The first piece of land that we bought, can I tell you, we had already paid. This was like millions and millions of multi-million naira. And then we wanted to take possession of the land, and then another person came and said, no, they've already paid for the land. So it now became, and then people were telling us, oh, we better go and collect your money back, because if you don't collect your money back, this could be, and I was like, oh, the person who sold the land had assured me that within 3 weeks, it will be sorted out. But thank God that I listened to all the other voices of reason, and I asked for my money back. The person gave me my money back grudgingly, and thankfully, because we have the documents of the land,
So that was leverage to get your money back.
Exactly. But he still held on to maybe like 1 or 2 million, saying the cost of doing business. I said, you must be drinking
something.
I need all my money back. Are you kidding me? Because of land that you didn't even come through. No, so that took another piece of time. And this, even to find the right spot, right, took a long time. So it was back to the drawing board. But we finally found land that I finally got the money back, thankfully, complete in bits and chunks, and but we finally got it back, and then we started looking again, finally found a spot where we are now, and we started building. And can I tell you that it's definitely been a game changer having our own. We don't have to worry about any landlord. We're not even 100% done. I'm just like, we will start, and that's the lesson in perseverance, right? And not, I've never put too much pressure on myself that I had to have a perfect factory space or whatever, but it serves the needs for where we are. And since then, we've been able to buy the plot over, and then the plot over, because we're growing. The other land that we initially bought didn't even have room for expansion anyway. So I think God was up to something when that truncated and we didn't move anywhere. But that also taught me that you don't ever put all your eggs in one basket, number one. Number two, don't ever put your fate in the hands of somebody else and be, because when my landlord said move, we started running around, and we stopped operations for close to maybe 13 months.
Wow.
We were doing skeletal work, and thankfully that wasn't our only location, because we have locations in Abuja, in Ondo State, in Lagos, mini skeletal. So we're still doing work, but this was our largest space, and so it really truncated our revenue that the 2 years, because it happened almost half of 1 year, 2022 into 2023. But now no landlord can come and say move, because it's our own space. It forced us to take that big step. And I would encourage any entrepreneur out there listening that, sometimes you might be faced with challenges and you're like, oh, this is the death of me. But really, if you can sort of move to the next level and really sort of overcome some of those challenges, you'll be amazed at the progress that you'll make and the leaps that will come out of it. I mean, now again, we're probably doing almost 3 times what we're doing in our old space. So again, it was a blessing in disguise, right? We've grown, we've bought more equipment, and then because we've shown traction, there's more support coming, right? More people are saying, "Oh, you're a more established organization, right? It seems like you're not a fly by night." So where it's definitely helped us.
Wow. There are a lot of lessons here. This is what I gleaned from what you've said. Apart from the fact that you mentioned about adversity and resilience, and that you don't turn back. You have a decision to make when you face adversity, and you try to find a way around it. Over, under, however, that's number one as an entrepreneur. But something else I gleaned from what you were saying was that you had a board, which provided support and advice. Where you might have been at your wit's end, they were able to guide you in the right direction. For me, that's really important. Then another thing that you mentioned, which I have also experienced, is when you're doing business in Nigeria and you're looking for funding, at this time, collateral is key. And many entrepreneurs who are passionate about their business, they put everything back, they plow everything in. But then when they need funding for expansion, they're punished. They're asked, they don't look at their business, that the banks don't look at the business, the turnover. They don't look at any of that. What they want is landed property.
Yes.
Unfortunately.
Yes.
That's the way it is. And so it seems like you have to have real estate and run your business. It ought not to be that way, but it is the way it is right now here. And so it's something that is important for those operating in Nigeria to understand. I know BOI and some others are saying they're doing things a bit differently, but So that's quite a lot to learn. And I mean, one of the reasons why we're having these conversations and why we come on Seed Diaries is to help entrepreneurs find the shortcuts, through to success.
Yeah.
They learn from the stories, from the lessons that others have learned, without having to experience those things themselves. And you're actually being very generous with your knowledge. I really appreciate it. So Funto, what is in the future for Chanja Datti?
Yeah.
Where do you see this going in the next 5 years?
It's thankfully because of the traction we've had in the last decade. I think we've proven to a lot of people now that we are here to stay. We want to definitely move up the value chain. So for me, one of the ideas we have, and we're also getting approached by international partners who want to come into Nigeria, right, to do manufacturing on a large scale, especially from PET bottles, right? So I'll give you an example. There's a South Korean company that approached us. I don't know if you know that all the foam inside chairs like this, inside automotive, like automobiles or whatever, is made from PET. So this company wants to do foam for, automobile industry internationally, and they're looking for PET materials. And they approached us and said, "Oh, but again, the money is plenty. I can't lie, So you know what I mean. The money that my own share, if I had to go into, but the share I have to bring is quite plenty. So we're still sort of trying to figure out what play there is. And then there's a big need now for, I think a lot of countries worldwide are starting to talk about bottle-to-bottle manufacturing and ensuring that every bottle that you see, PET bottle that you see, has recycled content in it. So meaning that instead of using just 100% virgin material, there has to be recycled content. There's a food and beverage company in Nigeria that's already ahead of the game in Nigeria, but in Europe, by 2025, every bottle must have 25% recycled content.
Opportunity. So
that's why we started, So there's a lot of opportunity. And so there's some, European companies that are looking for source materials from Africa and Nigeria by extension because of our population and the fact that we have a lot of materials. So those opportunities are coming up. And so we want to become, hopefully, a bottle-to-bottle manufacturer, not even for Europe, but because it's coming to Nigeria now, we want to be one of those companies that are at the forefront of turning, old bottles into feedstock for new bottles. And these are things that, honestly, have, create jobs. So right now I have a staff strength full-time of like 95 and then part-time 120 women.
Oh,
But
wow.
I want, in 5 years, there's nothing stopping me from having a 1,000 staff strong company, right? Because these are jobs that we need. These are green
Yes,
jobs. These are jobs
definitely
that,
need them.
and then the other thing that we're also looking into right now is turning, again, the same plastic. I said turning into fiber, turning them into thread. So instead of importing threads from China, we want to start making threads that people can use for sewing and things like that. So again, these are some of the ideas we have in the next 5 years that hopefully we will be there. But this year we're going to start manufacturing from the covers of the PET bottles and from your broken jerry cans and we're going to start manufacturing bowls and plates, plastic plates, local plastic plates from them.
Wow. Are you looking for investors?
Sure, let's talk.
See, well, it's not just me. I'm just wondering, anybody listening to this
Yes,
who
we
is
are.
a potential investor who believes in doing well while doing good.
Yes.
I mean, if this is not an example, I don't know what else you would say would be. So, Funto, this is just fantastic. I'm so grateful to you. I've learned so much from you today. Thank you so much for sharing your story on Seed Diaries. And I want to thank you all for tuning in to this episode of Seed Diaries. I want to remind you before you log out to like, subscribe, and share.
Yes.
Thank you. Have a
Thank you.
wonderful day.
Thank you so much, Mama.